the Amherst Township Trustees called to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Abraham?
Here.
Lynch?
Here.
Euring?
Yes.
And Kish. We have a quorum. I have the meeting minutes from the regular meeting of the October 10th, 2023 Amherst Township Trustee meeting. It was called to order at 7:01 p.m. by Lynch. The pledge to the flag and roll call, Abraham, Lynch, Euring, and Kish were present. Also in attendance, Case Marsh, L. Ashley, and G. Lynch. 10:123, a motion by Abraham, seconded by Euring. Move to approve the September 26, 2023 regular meeting minutes as corrected. All ayes. 10:223, a motion by Lynch, seconded by Abraham. Move to approve the financial reports and payment of items on the payment listing with reservation as provided by the fiscal officer. All ayes. Under correspondence, Fiscal Officer Kish received a letter from the Lorain County Commissioners regarding the 200th bicentennial celebration on May 24th, 2024. They are asking for items from the township for their time capsule. A copy of the letter was supplied to each trustee and township administrator. Trustee Lynch shared a public notice for the trustees' public hearing for 45 acres on the east side of Oberlin Road and south of State Route 113 from RAG to R1. The hearing will take place on October 24th, 2023 at 7:30 p.m. here at the Amherst Township Hall. Under reports for ambulance service, Trustee Abraham reported a request for proposal has been issued by the Sandstone Joint Ambulance District. Proposals are due by November 8th, 2023, and the Sandstone Joint Ambulance District will be reviewing them. A special ambulance board meeting has been scheduled for Thursday, November 16th, 2023 at 4 p.m. at the Amherst Fire Station. Under roads, parks, and cemeteries, Road Superintendent Smarsh reported mowing and trimming. Hidden Valley was poured on Monday, and as of tomorrow, half of Cobblestone will be poured. 2 catch basins have been repaired, chip and sealed Broadway and Tenney. There are a couple of sewer repairs that will need to be made. Trustee Lynch noted that we have not heard back from the county for the ARPA dollars for the Oberlin Road resurfacing project. Under Township Administrator, open enrollment for Medicare. Appointments have already been set up for 2 residents. Morgan is sitting in on the Medicare meetings, going through files that are duplicates and can be shredded. Under complaints, complaints are handled by the designated individual. Unfinished business. Trustee Lynch noted that there will be a waste hauling consortium pre-bid meeting on October 23rd, 2023 in Conference Room D in the County Administration Building at 1 p.m. Sealed bids will be accepted till 3 p.m. on November 3rd, 2023. The public is welcome to attend the public bid opening immediately following the deadline. NOPEC has set their annual meeting date, and Trustee Lynch will pass that information on to everyone. The next regularly scheduled meeting will be Tuesday, October 24th, 2023 at 7 p.m. at the Amherst Township Hall. Reminder, the trustees' public hearing will take place on October 24th, 2023 at 7:30 p.m. at the Amherst Township Hall. 10:323, a motion by Abraham, seconded by Euring to adjourn at 7:33 p.m. All ayes.
Are there any changes or corrections to the October 10th meeting minutes?
Yes, a special ambulance board meeting has been scheduled for Thursday, November the 16th, but it doesn't have a time on it.
Does at 4 p.m.
At 4 p.m.
4 p.m., yeah, that's what it does.
Oh, there
I
we
was
go.
looking for it.
All right. And
Okay.
if there's no changes, can I have a motion to approve the October 10th meeting minutes as presented?
So move.
Second.
Abraham?
Yes.
Euring?
Yes.
Lynch?
Yes.
Okay, and you have in your packets, at the last meeting you mentioned that I did not have the August credit card report. So you have both August and September in your packets. And then also for financials, you have the payment listing in front of you, which is pretty much boilerplate. The largest sum is $30,400, which was our last reimbursement of ARPA dollars coming back to the township. Our year-to-date revenue is $1,482,608.84, and our year-to-date expenditures are $871,375.44. So I'd like to do the credit card first.
I know
Or
you
the
get
financials, whichever one.
Yeah, well, you guys had a chance to review the financials and credit card statements prior to the meeting. Are there any questions at all? If not, then I'll make a motion to approve the financial reports and the payments of the items on the payment listing, which includes ARPA fund expenditures as specified in the documentation provided by the fiscal officer.
Second.
Lynch?
Yes.
Abraham?
Yes.
Urick?
Yes.
What's the number on that, Chris?
That'll be 10-5.
Thank you. And also, I'll make a motion that the credit card review, account transaction detail has been reviewed per policy, and the card statement is accepted as presented, subject to investigation.
Second.
Lynch?
Yes.
Abraham?
Yes.
Urick?
Yes.
And that's 10-6.
Thanks, Chris. Is there anything else there?
That is
Now-
all, whoops.
Which one were you doing?
Did the first one, which was the financials and the payments, that was 10.5.
Okay.
The second one was the credit card statement, that was 10.6.
Which one? For August?
August and September.
Both of them.
August and September. August and September. That's what I was observing. I didn't think we did August, but, okay.
You told me at the last meeting we did not because I was ill. I wanted to make sure I got it in there. Then the only other thing I have is what you have in the packet.
Right, yeah, Chris received the information regarding the acceptance of the amounts and the rates from the Tax Budget Commission, so you have a prepared resolution before you. There's really, other than looking for any errors, this is pretty much a matter of routine to approve this. So I don't know if you guys looked at this ahead of time. We also have what our preliminary budget was that we turned in for 2024. Are there any questions on this?
No?
We have none.
And I'm going to make a motion that the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and its certification being the same are hereby accepted. And then I'm not going to list you've got all the items there as far as the details for the amounts and rates.
Second.
Lynch?
Yes.
Urick?
Yes.
Abraham?
Yes.
That's 10-7 then, Chris?
Yes, it is.
What was that motion?
10-7.
7.
Okay, and is that it, Chris?
That's all I have.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to welcome everyone in attendance, and I know there's someone here that is on the current ballot that would like to speak before the trustees. Mr. Resendez, if you'd want to come up and introduce yourself. And you've got plenty of time now. We rushed through that pretty quick.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the invite, trustees. My name is Richard Zenez. I'm a Democratic candidate for the position of Lorraine County Sheriff on the ballot for March of 2024. In talking to the trustees and the board and to the residents of Amherst Township, let me tell you why I believe and I am the most qualified candidate for this position. The sheriff has 3 mandated functions: providing the public peace, attending and running the county jail, and attending to the needs of the common police court. 3 mandated functions per the ORC. In each of those fields, I believe and I know that I hold the most qualifications. I was a Lorraine police officer for 26 years, retired, came over to the sheriff's office in 2002 and held the rank of captain for the road patrol division for 8 years, and then back in the jail as the director of corrections for 2 years. I subsequently left that position and attained a position with the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections. My experience on the road patrol provided me that knowledge to provide the public peace for the residents of Amherst Township and for all the 18 townships in the county. My experience in the jail which is the biggest function of the sheriff's office, allows me to get the insight on how to run a jail, the ins and outs. That, in conjunction with my experience in the prison system, provides me the most experience in that position. The third, attending to the needs of the common police court. My current position as Chief Operations Officer for the Lorraine County Prosecutor's Office, I routinely deal with all the common police judges and the probate judges and the domestic relations judges on a almost weekly basis. I know their needs. I know the justice system. I deal with the administration on the admin side of the county, and I believe, I feel, and I know that I bring the most experience in all three of those fields. So what I'm doing is I'm asking the residents of Amherst Township to remember me on March 2024, and hopefully they support me for the position of Lorraine County Sheriff. Thank you, Board.
Got any questions?
No, I don't.
I still remember the first time meeting Rich was at Amherst Township trick-or-treat event, so I'm guessing you were still on road patrol then, because I think that was probably around 2022, or 2002.
2002, and I remember we were able to provide our bike patrol
Right.
to ride and during the Amherst Township and the Hidden Valley trick-or-treat that day. So again, I'm not a new face to the board. Hopefully you remember me, and to the residents of Amherst Township. And I believe when I was in that position, I fulfilled the needs of the 18 townships within the county, and I did provide that service. And I want to provide that service again and to move forward, move the sheriff's office forward.
Thanks, Rich. Good
Thank
luck
you.
to you.
Rich.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is anyone else? Okay, we're going to move on. We do have at 7:30, so in case we get to that point, if somebody shouts out, we're going to have a public hearing on a proposed zoning map amendment, and David Kohler will be here presenting on that. So we'll move on to correspondence. Chris?
I have none.
Hey, David?
I have nothing to bring forward at this time.
Hey, Denny?
No, nothing.
Okay. I do have one item that's not on the agenda, and I'd mentioned this at the last meeting, is the NOPEC General Assembly meeting for 2023. That will be on November 14th at 10:30 a.m. It's going to be at the Hilton Garden Inn in Twinsburg. That's at 8971 Wilcox Drive, Twinsburg, Ohio. The registration will begin at 9:30 a.m., so the meeting promptly will begin at 10:30 a.m. Then if you stay past 12, they will have a lunch available, and there's going to be an energy market seminar presented after that. I don't have all the details as far as what's going to be presented at that educational seminar, but the speaker will be a Doug Condon, NOPEC's new hedging consultant and managing director of Three Rivers Agency. So if you do want to attend, let me know or contact NOPEC directly so that we can get you on the list there. So the trustees are aware. I will mention this to Linda just to see if the township administrator would like to attend this particular meeting if time permits. Get on the agenda, since she obviously fields a lot of the calls here in regards to NOPEC. The only other item I have will actually be addressed with the agenda item. So we'll move on then to reports. Ambulance, Denny?
Nothing other than the meeting, which is, it's in November, it's
November 16th?
November 16th, that's right. It's November 16th.
Okay. Yep, at 4 o'clock at Amherst Fire Station.
Right. I should have had you make the announcement.
Okay, and we'll move on. As far as sheriff's report, I see Deputy Fuller's not present. We'll move on. Zoning, I know that Sam D'Ambrosio sent me a text prior to the meeting that he wouldn't be here. A busy time of year for his business that he runs himself. So Fire Prevention Officer Chris Nyhart.
As everyone is aware, October and November, no open burning in the township between the hours of 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. That's through the Department of Forestry. You can have your little fire in the backyard in your fire pit. Nothing huge, and if it is between those hours and we come out and put it out, may be a citation that goes along with that.
I did see in the last quarterly report, so I'm kind of reading between the lines. This probably was a neighbor spat that they were called out for a fire, but it was reported it was all clean wood and just recommended keep it a little smaller.
Right. And that complaint, I believe, has been taken care of on Cooper's Road? Copper Creek.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was one on Copper Creek in terms of the house fire that's been waiting. And I did follow back up with the gentleman and called him, and they've actually noticed that internal, everything's been torn down to the studs, and there probably is work happening.
There is.
So he just, it seemed more like a curiosity once I actually got to speak with him than a real complaint, just wanting to know that it's going to be cleaned up.
Yeah, they're working on it.
Okay, thanks, Chris.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Chris?
No, I have none.
Are you staying for the public hearing, Chris?
I am not.
All right, roads, parks, and cemeteries, Superintendent Smarsh.
I don't have too much happening. Everything's running real smooth with the road crew. We did go through dumpster days this past last week, the end of last week and over the weekend. That turned out real well. Cobblestone was finished. It was poured on Monday afternoon, so that is taken care of. But everything else is regular maintenance.
You had talked about, a trading with the city as far as using a jetpack because of some work you had to do to help them out in emergency. I just want you to be aware there are still some stormwater mini grant funds available. Don't know that we would have access to them, but they are available. And Don Romanchak at the last SWAC meeting just last Thursday had mentioned jetpacking as being one of the items that would be eligible. And so it's just something we may want to consider in some of the catch basin cleaning we're doing and taking care of some of the other items. I know you've done additional culvert repairs out there, but if you've got some more for this year, Kevin, that fall within that, I'd say let's put an application. Worst that can happen is they tell us no.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, the last time we had a big vac, which would have been last year, it was for the day, I believe it was like $1,800.
Yeah. Well, that would cover it if, it might be time to do it now. I mean, the other things I can think, but we wouldn't do it until the spring, and that'd actually be in the next year's funds. Is always keep in mind the road sweeping we do to get up all the road debris so it doesn't end up in the catch basins, to me should be applicable also, especially since now we're required to dispose of that. We can no longer spread it according to the EPA regulations.
Would that application be on their website, or should I talk to
It
Don?
should be. If you need it, I can send you another one. It'll be the same one we used before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's the same one, because this is for 2023. What Don said at the SWAC meeting, if the funds aren't used this year, they're going to roll them up, carry them over to 2024. It's just surprising to me that they were still there. If you recall, he made a comment, it was at one of the Lorraine County Township Association meetings. It would have been the one in Brighton Township. I only know that because I remember where we were sitting, and they had joked Amherst Township need not apply, but they basically opened it up to everyone else because we had already received a grant. But if the money's still there, I would say let's apply for it. Some of the other issue for the more rural townships, they don't have a lot of direct roadway. It's the main roads or county roads, and they're open ditch repairs that they may not even be applying for it. Okay, but you're usually looking at like Carlisle, Eaton, Columbia, those townships, Elyria, that are making the applications for those type of funds. And again, it's just small funds, they're not large expenditures. You know, the others are looking for if they need a culvert replacement and whatnot, and those dollars obviously get very expensive. Okay, well, let me know if you need the application again, otherwise you should have it. It's the same one I sent you previously, but I would say let's try for it. Okay, are there any other questions for Kevin?
No, I have nothing.
Okay, I do have, this is where I referenced that it is part of this. Well, let me ask first, Kevin, do you know on the round 38, did Linda get that entered into work-wise? Because that's also, the county engineer did say for our application for next year for the OPWC funds that we could now enter those. And we've got until sometime, I think the first week in November, but you obviously want to get that done right away.
They're in.
Okay, so they're in, so that's done, great. Okay, and then I just presented the email string that's been going on here. There were $67,000 in funds that we had applied for through the county. Weren't sure if these were going to be ARPA funds or TIF funds as a result of the Hampshire development, but this would be a partial match for the Oberlin Road resurfacing project, which actually came in with since we didn't have to do the subsurface repair, it actually came in at a total just a hair shy of $169,000. If you recall, the original engineer's estimate was $246,000. But Chris informed me that this was going on the Board of Commissioners agenda for their next meeting.
I'm not sure if it's Tuesday or Friday, but I did see it go
Okay.
through the system
Okay,
today.
so that'll be coming soon, but what Linda's already put in the disbursement request to OPWC for the portion that OPWC would be providing for this project. It's going to be proportionally less, but based on the original engineer's estimate of $246,000, we would have been expecting from OPWC a little over $23,000 in the loan component and a little less than $122,000 in grant funds. So, $145,000 total. Well, realize it'll be that ratio, the 169 divided by 246, and my mental math isn't good enough to do that in my head at the moment, and I'm not even going to attempt to, but we will be receiving those funds from OPWC. Then the township's match of $34,000 coupled with the $67,000 from the county will cover the balance of the cost of that project. Okay, and I was aware Linda Ashley wasn't going to be here this evening, so we'll skip that portion. I have nothing new to report on the Lorco project. Typically, if there's anything to bring up, because we are subject to the EPA Phase 2 MS4 stormwater requirements, I don't think other than the discussion we had right now on the SWAC committee, availability of funds, there's anything more to report unless the trustees have any questions. I did have the item on here, which I just mentioned to Kevin, that there are the mini grant funds available. There's also at the SWAC meeting and the Lorraine County Township Association meeting, which also was last Thursday, Don recommended that the townships that are interested in applying for 2024 is get with the county engineer now. And if you recall, Kevin, the county engineer punted last time, and we got to do an estimate based on just a logjam clearing for the project we have in place. We should be looking at what the next section is that we would like to apply for. And if you want to just give me a jingle so we can discuss that, because we do have some options, but we're still going to need to get an estimate from the county engineer. As far as the current, we have two projects that are approved that we're just waiting on easements. One is the Van House Ditch starting at the Lakeshore Railway overpass here on Oberlin Road, heading all the way over to where that portion of the Bat House enters into the east branch of Beaver Creek. We're still waiting on 2 easements there. We've got the one property owner. The difficulty's been that they do not live local. They do have, though, their legal representative in Vermillion. We thought that was going to be signed off late this summer, but that didn't happen. Hoping they can work something out with electronic signature so they don't have to have the person physically present, which seems to be their issue right now. The other property owner has met at his property with the people from the Lorraine County Stormwater District, and also I'm going to forget the name of the firm that they work with. It's an outside firm that handles stormwater projects, but he met out there with his legal advisor, and I think they're going to sign the easements, knowing that it's going to benefit them also. We do know there's also the beaver issue to get taken care of in that area itself. As far as the project that then goes from, for the Batten House ditch, starting from Overland Road, heading south, and that one, it depends upon how much they get in terms of the easements and the amount of work and log jams that'll come all the way up through the Akuta property, is they still need several of the easements signed for that project. So those are still approved projects. The funds are dedicated. It's just a matter of getting the property owners to agree. And then the SWAC committee would like to try and get these easements ahead of time. So, you know, obviously everybody would, but at the same time, as we tell them, it's difficult to be asking people to sign easements for something that they haven't committed the funds to yet. And as soon as you start asking people for access to their property and say, well, I don't know what it's going to cost and I don't know when it's going to be done, it's kind of, you know, there's no real incentive to move on it. So, but that's the status of where we are in terms of stormwater projects at this point in time. Okay, we'll move on to the complaints here. I know where Sam's going on this one. David, as far as the one for the lighting on Old Middle Ridge,
Waiting
anything?
from word from Ohio Edison,
Okay,
still on their work order, work list. Same with those sites that I reported out, they're still on the work list.
okay, and the Rusty Kill one, Kevin, that's the one to close. That's the, should have taken that off. And then also, Chris already reported on the one in Copper Creek, and as I indicated, I've already corresponded with Mr. Stidtak on that, and he seemed comfortable in what's going on there. I'm going to take those 2 off. Okay, we'll move on. Solid waste, David.
Just that the policy committee met, still waiting till the end of the month till all the communities have had a chance to take action on the plan update. However, there is sufficient number of communities representing over 60% of the population and the city of Lorraine that have approved it. So the plan update will be approved. Just that it would be nice if all the communities approved it. And then after that, it'll go to the EPA. I don't have anything from consortium meeting to add. To get to that. That's it right now.
Okay, thank you. Well, we're right at 7:30, so we're going to recess the regular meeting to go into the public hearing. And you do have in your packet the intro. So for Mr. Kohler, I'm going to introduce this before you come up. Okay, this public hearing involves a proposed amendment to the Amherst Township zoning resolution map that was initiated by the property owners, 113 Properties LLC, which is Arthur J. and Nicholas M. Abraham, and the applicant David M. Kohler of Cambridge Services. The amendment pertains to the following: is to rezone approximately 44.79 acres consisting of permanent parcel number 05-00-052-000-062 and 05-00-069-000-001, fronting the east side of Oberlin Road between 8795 and 8823, from the present classification of residential agricultural, which is RAG, to the proposed classification of low-density residential, R1. The area to be rezoned consists of approximately 44.79 acres with 91.64 feet wide frontage on the east side of Oberlin Road. The property depth is approximately 1,726 feet from the center line of Oberlin Road. Approximately 25.58 acres are used for agriculture, 19.21 acres are woodlands. 17.56 acres of woodlands on the southern portion of the property and 1.65 acres of woodlands to the northeast, just north of the Batten House ditch. If the zoning map amendment is granted, it is the applicant's intention to construct 65 single-family homes on 19.29 acres with a conservation development overlay. 25.5 acres would be conserved as open space, including all wooded areas. Most of the surrounding properties are zoned RAG agricultural residential, with 3 parcels along Oberlin Road zoned R1. The adjacent land uses are mostly residential along the road frontage and agricultural to the east. For the attached letter dated July 19th of 2023 from Lorraine County Community Development Department staff to Lorraine County Planning Commission, the staff recommended to disapprove the amendment along with several specific considerations. For the attached letter dated July 28, 2023 from Lorraine County Community Development Department, Lorraine County Planning Commission met on Thursday, July 27, 2023, and voted to accept the staff recommendation. The Amherst Township Zoning Commission held a public hearing on August 1st, 2023 at the Amherst Township Hall and continued the public hearing on September 5th, 2023 and October 3rd, 2023. For an October 4, 2023 letter from the Zoning Commission Chairperson, Mr. Lonnie Dillon, the Zoning Commission approved the requested amendment to the Amherst Township Zoning Resolution map, the roll call being 5-0. The various correspondence are available and may be read for the public record. The public hearing shall provide an opportunity for any interested person to be heard on per ORC Section 519.12H within 20 days after the public hearing. The trustee shall either adopt or deny the recommendation of the Zoning Commission or adopt some modification thereof. In the event the trustees adopt an amendment of the zoning resolution, the amendment effective date will be 30 days hence from such adoption. In the event the trustees elect to overrule or modify the recommendation of the Zoning Commission, the majority of vote of the trustees shall be required. Wherein the trustees fail to obtain a majority vote, the recommendation of the Zoning Commission shall be considered as approved with an effective date of the amendment of the zoning resolution occurring 30 days hence from the date of the public hearing. Now with that, I'm going to go through what the community development staff had presented. This is in the July 19th notice from to the Lorraine County Planning Commission from Community Development Department staff. It indicates that the Amherst Township Zoning Commission is proposing to rezone 2 parcels on the east side of Oberlin Road from agricultural residential to low-density residential. The parcels to be rezoned consist of approximately 44.79 acres. Current land use is agricultural. Most of the surrounding properties are zoned RAG, with 3 parcels along Oberlin Road zoned R1. Adjacent land uses are mostly residential along road frontage, agriculture to the rear. Most of the adjacent lot sizes range from 1 to 2 acres, with 80 to 125 foot of road frontage. There are a few 3 to 7 acre parcels with larger frontage. The staff recommendation is to disapprove the amendment for the following 3 reasons. 1, since the area has developed consistent with RAG district, staff suggests maintaining the RAG zoning and applying to develop the land as a conservation development. That way, the overall density is the same, but it can be developed with smaller lots and shorter roadways. 2, there is only one means of ingress or egress to the property. There is a maximum of 50 units in a subdivision with only one means of ingress or egress. And 3, there are also a maximum street lengths with one means of ingress or egress which would likely be a violation at the R1 density. And that's all I'm going to read at this time as far as the documentation that was presented and concerned. So Mr. Kohler, if you want to come in and present your case.
I think chronologically you gave a pretty good summary of what happened up through the last zoning meeting, which was the recommendation that came forward from zoning to the trustees. Basically, our submission here developed a little bit since the original submission in July, because we were in the process of completing all of our due diligence. Plus, we subsequently had meetings with the county, with the planning and so forth during that time. So the revised plan, basically we came up with 2 ways we can develop the property. One is with the rezoning of this portion to R1 and splitting this property off. And we developed a couple potential purchasers for it for agricultural reasons, basically, to leave it as agriculture. That was, as we explained at the last meeting, that was our preference. We're looking to develop somewhere around 70 lots, give or take, for this market. If we develop the whole thing, we'd be developing 135 lots. And based upon what our anticipated absorption is, that's going out several years beyond really where we wanted to be. So we basically looked at it from two ways. One is if we went forward with the R1 here, with approximately 65 lots based on that 44 acres, which is halfway between, density-wise, halfway between our ag and R1 in terms of density. That was our preference. The flip side is we would maintain all the property. Again, in both cases, we would be developing it under the conservation overlay. If we develop the entire parcel, we'd be at about 135 units. And that would not require rezoning of this parcel to R1. It would just all stay R ag. We presented those to the zoning board, and I think I gave you a summary too of what those 2 were previously, and how we're looking at it and how the lots would be, how it would be configured. And basically, I think what came out of the zoning meeting was the preference, as far as the zoning board was to go with the smaller development, which would be contingent upon developing this as R1, and then us splitting that off for agricultural reasons, which is really still our preference today, and that's where we're at from that standpoint. A couple of the comments from planning previously, from the earlier, we've met with them and discussed those things. The principal one was, as of 2019 or 20, the county planning introduced a new restriction in terms of within townships and so forth, a limit of 55 lots with one access off a principal collector, which in this case would be Overland Road. We've met with them. There's some ways to address that, and we've come up with basically 3 ways we can, so we can meet that concern that they had. And so at this point, I don't think we're going to, at least as far as what they've stated, I don't think we have a problem going forward as far as planning's review on that. And when we submit our plan for the development, if the zoning is approved, it'll show what our proposed auxiliary access is. And that access is supposed to be primarily under their ordinance for At a minimum, it has to be for emergency access, has to be restricted emergency access and so forth. And we've identified about 3 ways that we can access the property in addition to the principal entrance off of Overland Road. So, I mean, that's really where we're at as of today. And again, I think your summary was pretty good, so I guess at this point, the best thing I can do is probably answer questions.
Okay. Well, before we have, is there anyone else here from the public that wishes to speak on this? If there is, raise your hand. Okay, seeing none, I know there were some other individuals that wanted to be here this evening, Dave, but I know they've had some family emergencies that they couldn't, but they'll be watching this on video. They want to know, they were interested in your updated general development plan, which you'd indicated prior to the meeting. You really haven't adjusted that. I guess it's, as you said, you were meeting with the county to try and overcome this, 50 lot limit on a
Right, yeah.
single ingress and egress. So,
Yeah, we have,
okay.
excuse me, we have to settle in on which of those 3 access points we're going to use. Then the development plan will be based upon that. And like I say, those are based upon discussions that we just had over the last couple of weeks with them, so.
Okay, and as far as those access points, is it something that you can discuss of where they are, or is it you can't because they may involve some procurement of additional lands?
They do, but I think I can talk to our principal one we're most interested in is off of Telegraph Road across this under 8 acres right here, 0.8 acres. That property has a Benton House ditch that crosses it in 2 locations. And as we talked earlier, we run into, whoops,
If I take it, the mic died.
oh, okay. Use that one. Okay.
And Georgianne, can you also get the map up that shows the aerial overhead where he's talking about the Benton House ditch from the auditor's website? Yeah.
You want the auditor's website?
No, the one that, you've got a copy
I
of
think
it
it's
already.
page 2 or 3 we had there, yeah. But anyways, as we'll see, when she puts that up there, the ditch it crosses in 2 ways, which makes it kind of problematic as far as putting a dedicated road across it. Based on what we know right now, yeah.
Yeah,
So
that'll
it's-
work.
It's this parcel here, the ditch comes in here, crosses back over there. So this is our preferred way to go for a couple of reasons. One is we're also looping the water line from Route 113 to Overland Road, and this is the most direct way to do that. Also, we think we can bring our auxiliary access in along here, but it's dependent upon the location of the existing culvert right now where it crosses 113, and bring it down and connect it up with our development. There is a restriction, though, that in terms of dealing with that, generally under the Corps of Engineers rules, we're entitled to 1 crossing if it's a dedicated street. For 2 crossings, they're telling us they wouldn't give us that. So that's one of the limitations we have in terms of putting a dedicated street off of 113 is we would have to cross the ditch twice, and they're not going to approve that. At least that's what they've told us. So that right now is our preferred access. We've also identified a couple other locations where we can either purchase an easement or purchase land to put that connection in. Ultimately, the final decision is going to be based upon a number of things. One is again, that access off of 113. And also the best way to route the water connection from 113 to the subdivision. And also finally, county planning and county engineer has to approve where it's going to tie into the subdivision. So we've identified those as our 3 options. What we have to do now is we have to when we submit our development plan, preliminary plan, to the county engineer, he's going to have to look at all those things and tell us what his preference is.
So you have 3 access options, but your preferred option is the one on 113, is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. And what would the material for that emergency access, what's the material of construction?
That's going to have to be decided by the county engineer. They have other projects are being developed in other townships right now that are doing something similar. And so they're in the process of developing what it is they're going to require. They also have to relate, the fire chief's going to have to be on board with it because it's going to be for emergency services. It's going to have to be gated, have some type of control and so forth. So those are all things that are really going to be, start with the county engineers saying this is what we want and this is what we've done in other locations. It seems to work. Then, of course, it has to come back to the township and the township has to approve it.
Chris, is the Amherst Fire Department used to working with emergency access on material construction other than concrete and asphalt roadway?
Well, the biggest problem is if they use gravel, the maintenance of that is never kept up. It's put in, it's installed, it's approved. Yeah. Put in, installed, sorry, and approved. The problem is the maintenance after the fact, because nobody will go through that gate unless there's actually an emergency. A lot of times it gets left by the wayside. The weeds aren't cut down. The road is, and if it's going to go across that ditch at least once, I believe, is it Bob Kleiber, the engineer, who has
Yeah,
to
Bob.
approve all that, the weight rating and everything for that, or if it's the Army Corps of Engineers, whoever has to do it has to approve that, and it has to be at least 20 to 25 feet wide. We prefer a hard paved surface as opposed to gravel. I mean, if you have a base down, that's great, but like I say, the issue we run into 3 or 4 years down the road is it's not maintained, and when you open up the gate, all you see is a bunch of, weeds and trees growing up through the driveway. So, I mean, they have to be really kept on. I believe now the city makes them sign some kind of a agreement as far as the maintenance goes in their development agreement. That's all part of that.
The only emergency access I'm aware of in Amherst Township is along the railroad tracks, which is gravel, and when we had, both access points here closed, we worked out with the Turnpike Commission to actually allow up and through the Turnpike Service Plaza, or maintenance garage to get through for emergency access.
Well, this is becoming more popular because they shrink the size of the street down, include the sidewalk in as part of the paved the street. So the streets are narrowed down to 26 feet. So the big issue is if you get one truck down the street, trying to get another truck past it. So, I mean, I believe Mr. Waldecker had talked about looping the water line through to make make it a loop system through there. I don't know if that's who you've been dealing with, but I believe he said that there's enough water for that development. So, I mean, if that's one choice, I don't know what your other choices are as far as ingress for emergency ingress to get in there, or a second means.
Yeah, well, the water line itself, of course, wouldn't be under, it'll be within an easement, but it's not actually going to be under the area where the road is. But we've also been told that the county now has developed a maintenance agreement and everything for this, okay? So this is something they're doing in other townships, so we're going to be, part of our approval processes, they're going to submit a maintenance agreement and so forth that's going to have to be incorporated into the subdivision documents and so forth.
Well, I guess that's, see, you guys, you don't own that property, and that's one of the things I'd be asking about, Dave, if that came to pass, is you've just heard us talk about the easements for our stormwater projects along the ditch, and Batten House Ditch is one of the main drainage courses here in the township. I imagine they need that easement, because we'll be asking for it, which should clear it for the other piece, regardless of what the material of construction is. But I would assume it'd be a box culvert at a minimum, and I don't know if the county engineer will approve that, because remember when we were going through the option of cleaning the, I'm going to draw a blank on the ditch that migrates with the, intersects with the Batten House here along the Angle ditch, is they wouldn't accept just the box. Remember, they want us to put in the full culverts with the end walls, the whole bit, and we needed a minimum of 20-foot length, and when we were checking into that, it was $60,000. And we ended up, it was cheaper for $15,000. We bought the property from the property owner instead, who he wanted a way to get back and forth for just agriculture. We said, my gosh, the property wasn't worth that much, so buying the property and not putting it, we didn't need it for emergency, it was for his farm equipment.
Right.
So I imagine this cost would be similar, Dave.
Well, if we go this route, we're actually going to acquire that property. So it won't be by way of an easement. And that'll become open space for the rest of the subdivision. It's going to increase the open space too.
Okay.
You have plans for either residential agricultural or R1
Right.
low density,
Right.
either way. Are you buying the property now?
We will be buying a property, yeah. We're committed to buy. We're going to buy all 135 acres. And again, we'll either do, with the R1 zoning, we'll develop that and we will sell the balance of the 94 acres to the south. Or if we don't, then we'll be developing all of it under our ag, in which case the subdivision will continue down into here. We'll have a second entrance off of here, and we'll be grouping about 45 lots down in this area here. We want to stay basically east of this point right here, if we're going to develop that, and that's from the standpoint of technical reasons with the sewer and the water and so forth. So we can do either one.
When do you envision buying the property?
We'll be buying it here around the end of the year.
For certain.
Yeah, one way or another. I mean, we're going to do one or the other, yeah.
You have another question, Dave? All right,
Are you interested in putting that bottom piece in a conservation easement?
I think, yeah, that question came up last time. Problem is, if we put in a conservation easement, then I don't believe you can farm it.
No, you can farm it. Your transfer development rights, conservation easement, that retains it. Conservation, that retains it. You can do it with a conservation easement. State has programs where they purchase development rights and put in a conservation easement. Usually it's like the Western Reserve Land Conservancy or something. They hold the conservation easement and they basically make sure it's not being subdivided and built on and used for something other than agriculture or open space.
Again, we're just selling we've got potential interest in it, people that want to buy it that are farmers at this point. And I think, as I said at the last meeting, I don't know how we don't feel comfortable going to a buyer and saying, look, we're going to put this in a conservation easement, then you can buy it. But we're tying their hands up front. If they're going to spend the amount of money they're going to have to buy it in those 94 acres, that really makes it, I don't know, but my first inclination is it's probably unworkable. They're going to say, look, if we're buying this property, we're going to farm it, whatever we're going to do with it, okay, but we don't want to have our hands tied to say that we can't change our mind at some point in the future, and they may want to change what they're doing with it.
But it's hard for us to include that into some kind of conserved concept if there's nothing concrete. Can't really say it's conserved. It's not really conserved. We can say right now the intention isn't to do anything on it, but it doesn't preclude something being done on that piece of property at a later date. And really what goes on the north does have an impact on that piece of property because we have to look at the whole. We have to look at how is that going to impact the whole area. And if we see that we're going to give some kind of concession on that property to the north, thinking that nothing's going to happen to the south, when something's going to happen to the south, and all of a sudden, we've created a mess for ourselves. I can't see that.
Well, again, I understand what you're saying, but I'm saying, look, if we don't do that, then this whole area is going to get cleared, and this is going to be a subdivision here. We can do that now with the zoning as it currently exists.
You can do zones, you can do acre lots, you can go to an IAG conservation overlay.
Right, and I'm saying we would do that under conservation overlay, and one of the things we said was we wanted to stay away from this area and this area, And that's why we're limiting our development under that first option. If this is zoned R1, we're not going into there. We're leaving that as open space. I think that's a real benefit, and that really minimizes the impact to the residents there, the people that are adjoining. If we don't do that, then we develop it 134 acres as a conservation overlay district, which we can do now without the rezoning, and we know what those impacts are going to be.
I know there are requirements in the conservation regulations that if there are items that we feel are important or should be conserved, we can make that a criteria for any plans that come in for the property.
Well, again, if we develop the 134 acres, we're going to have 63% of open space. We more than exceed any of the requirements under the conservation overlay. There's nothing on the conservation overlay, the way it's written, to prevent us from developing all 135 acres. And again, we way exceed the open space. We exceed everything as a requirement. The preference we'd prefer not to do, again, is because then we have to extend the sewers this way too, this area here too. So there's some advantages for us not to have to do that. But basically, this entire area can be developed, sewer and water, and we're already providing a loop through to this point here, and it meets all the requirements under conservation overlay without any problem. I don't see anything in the ordinance that would prevent us from doing that. I mean, it meets that would meet the letter of what you're calling for under the conservation easement or the conservation overlay. The only reason we're not doing it is we just don't want to develop, 140 lots at this point. That really and truly is the only reason why we're not looking at doing it. As far as the people who we were looking at buying this property, all the interest we've had, and I think the township pretty well knows who we've been talking to, and those are the people that are farming this property here to the west. These are the people who we're talking to now, and they're the ones that have given us a proposal to buy the property at this point. They're farmers. That's what they do. They haven't indicated any interest in developing it because they don't do that. If they were to come in and do it, I guess they've got to come to you and get approval again. I'm not saying they wouldn't put it in a conservation, but I can't speak for them.
You indicated you did an update with the new general development plan for the 65 lots, but do you have your original plan with, I believe, was 75 or
76, yeah.
Can you put up that development plan, Georgianne? Okay, here it is. And you would describe to the zoning commission how that would be adjusted if there were 65. Can you explain that to us in detail?
Well, this also doesn't reflect additional conversations that we've had with the township, or not the township, but the engineer, because we have to provide a stub out to the adjoining property. That's a requirement they require.
And we expect that.
Right. So this doesn't reflect that. And also, we would shorten this street probably into a cul-de-sac, with a bubble cul-de-sac here, because that plan has obviously less lots on it. This was based on 76, and that was based on basically 1.7 units an acre, and now we're going to be at about 1.5. So, and then again, also we're going to have to show our secondary connection, and that doesn't reflect it either. So until we get the zoning, it doesn't serve much purpose, and until we locate with everyone's agreement where that additional access is going to be to actually generate a plan. But basically, that's the main way you would change this. The other thing we're doing is we wanted to move this further away because based on feedback we had the previous couple meetings, we're going to increase this to 50 feet here so we don't have to bother any of these trees along here. We're increasing the amount of open space is even more at this point. So this was open space at about 52%. Now we're going to be north of 60% or more open space. Again, we're not going into here at all, and this property goes another 1,400 feet or so to the south. The parcel, the 94 acres is down here, and it's roughly about 1,500 feet south of this point. this is all wooded in here. This is nice property. This is going to be, we may put some walking trails or something through there, but it's really meant at this point, if we do this plan, to be for casual, recreational activities and so forth. It's just going to leave it as woods.
Well, one thing I would hope now, so you don't know even that, where you show that cul-de-sac down to the south right now,
Yeah.
at what's currently farmed, so you don't, will you still construct roadway, or with only 65 homes, you won't need to construct down there?
Well, the way if we continue with this connection on through here, we're going to lose a couple lots here. This cul-de-sac will stay roughly here. It may have one or two less lots on it. I think we were dropping this lot out also too because of the depth here, and by moving the street north here, this street will move north about 50 feet and end over in here somewhere. Again, we need less street because we've got less lots.
Okay, well, what will come up, if this is approved, will be more in the future, but, we've talked about these walking trails through the wooded area there to the south. I would strongly encourage that, only because even though you indicate that you have an interested buyer after you purchase the property and purchasing the property to the south for agriculture, I think we have to expect in the future, that may end up getting developed into something other than agriculture.
I don't see how it can be though, because that's going to be designated open space. It has to.
No, not the wooded area.
Okay.
Wooded area.
The property south that you intend to sell off.
Oh, the
to
94
farmers,
acres,
which actually
okay, yeah.
Cirrus farmers, is that I expect that someday in the future, they're going to sell that. Okay, you can see it right now, that 95 acres, 94.8.
Yeah.
So expecting that, I would hope that the trails were through the woods, and not only a loop trail, but also that it has a connector going right into that 94.8 acres, so that when that does develop, that the two developments are linked, even though it'll just be a linkage by walking, bicycling, whatever. So I just wouldn't want that to be ignored. If you've been back there, you're aware the predominant wooded area is oak, so there is a mixture in there. There's even a birch tree back there, but it's a very nice piece of property that's back there. So I would just hope that you've got that plan still to put in the walking trails. Then I have a question which has never been shown here then, is your intention on the stormwater management, are you planning on wet or dry retention basins?
Our preference, normally we put at least one wet retention basin because that becomes a water feature. We like to put fountains in them. It's also good for water quality because it aerates the water.
And that's what we're going to prefer, is that the wet is preferred because it's better as far as the water quality, and we are subject to the EPA Phase 2. If you have your base level that's set in there, we know not only does that be a potential wildlife, but it provides a holding area there for the any debris to settle in, by slowing it coming out. And we actually would prefer, again, this is going to be off in the future, but I'm not sure we would want more than the typical that you don't shed any more water post-construction than you did pre-construction. We'd actually like it to be a little bit better, and perhaps instead of looking at the 10-year storm events, looking at 25-year storm events in terms of total capacity above the wet area, that you have in holding before it starts releasing, and as much as possible give at least a 24-hour release rate of that capacity that's being held back. So just if you keep that in mind as you're going forward. And some of the reasons we ask for that, it may seem like the burden put on the developer who gets more homes, is because you see all those new homes that have been constructed within the last 10 years along Overland Road, they didn't have to meet any of this.
Right.
I don't think people realize that in all the accessory buildings, so we try to get, when there's a larger development, to try and make up, if you will, for those impervious surfaces that are shedding water. so that it doesn't create problems for people that are downstream on it. Okay?
Yeah. Well, during construction, the pond or ponds themselves, they're also going to do double duty as our silt basins, okay, during construction until it's fully developed, all the lawns and everything in. Then we have to go back and I'm sure you're familiar with this, we have to as-build it. We may have to dredge them somewhat, get them down to the original design. They'll be underdug initially, so there'll be a pool in there for siltation during construction. But after everything's developed, all the lawns and everything, and then we go back and we as-build them, and then we put them back to whatever that sub-pool depth was originally supposed to be. As far as the 24-hour hold, yeah, we're pretty much everywhere we go now. The EPA is requiring that we have a minimum based on whatever the design storm is. We have to have at least, for water quality, we have to have at least 24 hours retention before it's released. And so it functions, yeah, to clean up the water, allow it to settle out before it releases it to whatever the receiving stream is. So, and because we got so much open space on this, we've got more open space here and we've got developed there. We've got plenty of room in terms of developing the plan view of the surface area of the pond. We got plenty of area. And again, we can also control, the freeboard on it too, volume-wise, so we can over-design it, and usually they end up somewhat over-designed anyways, when you have a site where you've got a lot of land to use.
Are there any more questions for Dave?
No, I have none.
Got someone here in the audience? You want to come to the microphone? Because if you come to the microphone, because then it'll pick up for people that are watching this later, and I know there's several residents that live right in this area will be listening this later.
Hi, my name is Amy Duncan. If I understand correctly, you do not currently own the 94.8 acres, correct?
We don't own any of it at this point. We're
Okay.
We're buying all.
So why would you purchase it just to turn around and spin it off?
Because our agreement with the property seller was we had to buy all 134 acres.
Okay. And then you're looking at putting all single-family homes in
Single-family
that
homes, yeah.
44.8 acre lot parcel. And what value of home are you targeting? Do you have builders that you already have lined up? I mean, are you looking at putting in $500,000 homes, or are you looking at putting in $100,000 homes? Because that will inherently affect the property value of all of us homeowners that live around there.
Yeah. Well, again, we don't have a builder per se. We open after we have an approved project. We have it pretty well designed and it's under construction. Then we usually enter into an agreement at that point. Until we know what it's going to cost, we don't know what to charge for the lots. The likelihood, where we're at right now, we're anticipating these lots are going to be between $90,000 and $100,000 for the lots. So as a rough rule of thumb, builders want to have a house and lot combined. The lot is about 20%, 20 to 25%, 25% maximum for the total combined. So if you're starting with a $100,000 lot, you're going to be north of $400,000 probably. But again, we don't build houses. We develop subdivisions and market them to the builders. But the cost of things being what they are today, and we do have, with this particular project, we've got a number of entitlements we have to build, including looping the water and a bunch of other things. These aren't going to be really cheap lots for us to develop. So which is also why we need to be somewhere north of 65 or 70 lots, because with the cost of all those entitlements coming forward, our break even on this, where we start to make money, is somewhere north of that. So
Is there a market in this area for homes that expensive, though?
we think so. We've been looking in the Amherst Township area for a couple of years. The new construction market, as I'm sure you're aware, has just gone through the roof. It's no longer a first-time home buyer market. It's a second or third-time home buyer market. We think that a lot of the buyers here are going to be people that are going to be moving sideways. They may live in the township already or in the area and want to move up or want to move into something that suits their needs better. So, yeah, there's no way that, $100,000 is going to buy the lot.
Right, okay, that's just what I needed to know. Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Yeah, I had some
Yeah, if you'll
follow-up.
state your name and where you live, sir.
Fred Duncan, same house.
Okay.
About this, the southern parcel, a lot of us moved there because we like the country feel and we didn't want to be in a subdivision. Are you going to offer the ability for some of those homeowners to actually buy back from their properties?
You mean along here?
Yes.
I can't answer that because, again, the people that are looking to buy it are farmers. And I think they want it for farming.
That's
But,
definitely our
I
preference,
can't really speak for them. They may at some point, if somebody approaches them, they may want to sell some of it off. But it's not something we really want to be involved with. In other words, that parcel, we'd rather just spin it off and let them farm it, do whatever they're going to do.
Okay, so essentially same as the current owner.
I don't.
All
Well-
one big piece.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's our burden right now. Unfortunately, we have to buy it all. And that's what we've committed to do.
My gut reaction would be if somebody's going to buy 94 acres, probably doesn't make much difference if they buy 84 or 94. I think there's an opportunity there that would come to that.
I don't know, I can't speak to that because I'm not them. I don't know, I know what they've
As
told
long as
us.
it's done in a rational way, not create a bunch of nooks and crannies for somebody. Farm, but that's that.
Oh, well, point's well taken. I just can't really speak to it. I don't know.
Is there anyone else?
The other two.
And I'm sorry, did you say your name and where you
Yeah.
live?
Yeah.
Okay.
Will the infrastructure for the water and sewer support your proposed 55 or 65 or 75 houses?
Yes, yeah.
Where will you be pulling those utilities?
Well, they're both on Overland Road right now.
Correct. So they're off of Oberlin Road. The sewer there is 13 foot deep at the south property. That would be deep enough or large enough for a development that large. Would there
Well,
be plans in the works for expanding the sewer system, making it larger, expanding it downstream, the water treatment capabilities of the township?
Well, the county evidently feels that there is sufficient capacity. As far as the gradient, that's why we're staying east or west of this point right here. There are other ways to get around that, and one is you can put in a lift station too, which could be done. But that's what we would look at doing if we were to develop this. We may well do that. But as far as capacity on Overland Road, they're telling us it's there.
Will the natural gas be available to those houses as well?
Yes.
And then with the wooded area that you're going to make an open space,
Yes.
is that categorized a wetland in there?
No. No, we've had it reviewed, and it's not, actually. There are a little bit of hydric soils on it in a couple pockets, but generally speaking, all of it is pretty good, and
Has it-
could be developed.
Has it been tested?
Yes.
Does it matter that it's been logged at some point in time?
Well, it has been logged, and that's why it's kind of hard to get around in there if you've tried to walk through it. But again, it's a matter of the soils and the other things determine whether they're facultative. And again, this gets into ORAM scores and so forth is what the wetlands people studied and looked at. Okay, and they've been out there and they've mapped it, and they've said it's, generally speaking, there's very little wetlands on it.
If you're going to offer it as a prestigious woodland area, are you going to clean out the fallen timbers?
Well, to the extent that we really want, for the most part, we're going to leave it alone. To the extent that put walking paths or something, or loop or something through that, it may require some limited amount of clearing and so forth to do that. We honestly don't have a big plan right now to go in there, and we don't want to clear it. And what's growing up there now, I mean, it's redeveloping pretty aggressively, I guess is the best way to describe it. And so our plan is not to do anything beyond developing it for passive type recreation, which if people want to hike and so forth, and establish a hiking path and so forth, mostly a loop path, but again, as Neil said, we would probably, I mean, obviously, I don't know that we'd actually put a stub down there now, but I don't think when anybody, if developed in the future there, if somebody actually develops this, and they wanted to connect it up, it seems logical to me that you would give them the opportunity to do that. But that's kind of jumping the shark for me right now. I don't really know, how that might develop, and that may be way down the road, if at all.
Yeah, well, if this gets approved and goes forward, I just wanted Dave, I don't know if you'd have a homeowners association or what, say for
Yeah.
just maintenance of the paths and the detention basins, we would want that set up front so we don't get two homeowners associations fighting each other over who has access and who's responsible for the maintenance. We want the ability to have that easily negotiated in the future so that the two developments are linked, because maybe long in the future, who knows, but I expect eventually that property would be developed. I don't expect it to stay agriculture forever.
Okay. Well, my understanding is one of the things we have to present to the township and the county is part of the approval process for the subdivision is the decks and bylaws for the homeowners association.
Right.
So we have a pretty extensive one actually, because they're fairly restrictive of the ones that we have. And the county is going to require, again, that the homeowners association has direct responsibility to maintain all the open space and so forth. And then the county is also going to require the homeowners association be responsible for that emergency access too. So that's a new thing that they've put together, and they've got their own agreement for that, which will be either appended to or made a part of the decks and bylaws for the association.
Did you have anything else you want to bring up? Is there anyone else?
My comments? So, my concern is, if you look at the zoning map, this is the heart of the residential agricultural zone. Pretty much right in the middle of it. You go to an R1, you create this large R1 island, R1 spot right in the middle. Plus, you've got this 94 acres hanging off to the south that you don't know what will happen there. And it really, in my mind, rips apart the RAG zone. And someone could come in later on with the same spiel about the 94.8 acres. And then what? Say, well, we'll do that one an R1 conservation overlay too. And then before you know it, you've done away with your RAG. You don't have an RAG zone anymore. All you've got is R1 because you've backed yourself by bits into a larger rezoning. Things are RAG for a reason. Part of that is the density. Well, if it stays R11, you develop 135 acres, or 135 lots there, then guess what? The 94.8 is developed. We don't have to worry about what's going to go on that anymore, because it'll all already be taken care of. Right now it's a je ne sais quoi, and anything could go in there at any time. Someone could come in, but there's no guarantee on it. If it all gets developed, fine. As far as the woods, there's some wiggle room in here as far as preserve to the greatest extent possible existing landscape features and amenities, and to utilize such features in a harmonious fashion. There's something creative that can be done with that. It doesn't necessarily have to be the housing back there. I just have trouble getting over that going to that R1 zone. I just have trouble with it because it's going to impact other properties, whether the intention is or not.
Well, again, All we're saying is that we can do it either way. If you want to take this area here, and when you take it out of development, that's what all the R1 does, going to R1 there, allows us to develop this under conservation district and leave 50 or 60% of open space. If you don't want that, then we just develop the whole thing. I get that. But I guess what I'm saying is this is something I would think you'd want to do. If somebody wants to develop that in the future, it's still RAG. And they still have to come to you. They would have to come in and request a rezoning and make an argument like we're making here that this reduces the impact, okay, on the surrounding property owners by doing it this way. If you don't want to do it that way and you want to develop the whole thing wall to wall under RAG, it can be done. But I guess I'm not following your reasoning completely because I'm saying, look, this is what's going to happen. This is the limitation of what's going on. If you don't want that and you want the whole thing developed, okay, it can be done. And which means that you have to connect these together. This property is eminently developable, okay? It'll be cleared and this will be developed into a subdivision approximately like this. Now, whether you do it under RAG or R1 is academic because the thing that really matters is your conservation overlay. And the conservation overlay allows you to do it. I've come to you and said, I've chosen not to want to do that, okay? But if you're concerned about that, then that's what we'll do. We'll develop all this under conservation overlay, okay? We'll clear that, and this will be one continuous subdivision with 2 entrances. That's why we presented it to you to say, these are our 2 options to develop the property. Either one can be done under the conservation overlay. In order to do this, to spare this 20-some acres and have 50% open space, we need R1 so we can group the houses here instead of spreading them over the whole thing. That's all. If you don't want us to do that, then don't approve it. And we'll just do it all under RAG, conservation overlay.
Yeah, and Dave, what I heard clearly from the residents that live right there is, their preference was the option of just the portion of the north, but you're looking at purchasing that 8 acres that fronts 113 to get your emergency access?
And to loop the water through, yeah.
Okay. And if that were the case, as you've got right now with the 44.7 acres and then adding in that 8 acres, if we just rezoned it conservation development with RAG, you would get 53 homes as the zoning stands today. What you're asking for is 65 because that's what you've determined is a level that you're comfortable with, where obviously you're in business to make money, so you're talking about a premium of 12 homes over what the current zoning would allow. That makes sense?
Give or take, yeah.
So it's, I really wanted to hear because I wasn't sold one way or the other, and I'm still concerned, other than what you've mentioned in talking with county planning, and as I shared with you before, the current subdivision regulations that were effective in September of 2019, if there were only a single point of ingress and egress, were 50 homes. And that's why, though they have a process to apply for a variance on that, for them to go to 65, I think, would be a stretch. And so that's why I cautioned you on that. It appears you've come with a different method. So if you're able to get that additional access point, I don't see the 12 homes as a negative trade-off in preserving that area and what I've heard from the residents that live right there and what they want. And the individual, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your last name when you were asking about the... Duncan. Duncan? Okay. Her questions, obviously they're concerned with the home values, and I would be too, but I think you've addressed that. And just to put it, I'm sure you've looked at the market in this area. We've got a similar conservation development, Hampshire Farms here in Amherst Township. Those lots are, just the lots were selling for about $56,000. They probably start around $340,000 for the homes then, and most of them now are up getting close to that $356,000. they could only have 50 homes because of the same issue with the one point of ingress and egress going in there. There's only 2 lots available, so in less than 2 years, that subdivision was pretty much sold out. So I wouldn't expect this really. I would think by the time you get going here, you probably are talking close to $500,000 homes, and it depends what you do to put that in there. I think you get the same thing, though, even if you stuck with the 53 homes in here, you know, which might, as far as your numbers, come close to that 65. But I don't want to see that wooded area taken out. I want to see the growth along the property, which is it's now listed as Bailey. It transferred, but it's still within the same family there. It was listed as Phillips when you first brought the proposal to the township. That's the one where you'd have the road coming in off Oberlin Road just to the south. They have the large oak tree.
Yeah, this area here. That, right. That's why we're moving that.
And they've been at the previous meetings. I know they couldn't make this particular meeting, but they were at every zoning commission meeting there. And, you know, they've got a beautiful parcel, and they really want to see that tree line preserved, and then also the wooded areas that are going to the south there. But at this point, I'm comfortable enough to go forward. I mean, you're still going to, as far as my fellow trustee here, David's concerned, if we rezone this, we're rezoning this with the expectation it's R1, conservation development, 65 homes max. Nobody can change from that. Once we put that in, you're not getting any more. Nobody's going to be let's say yours, for some reason, it doesn't work out, you don't buy it, and now it's R1 with its conservation overlay. I don't care. This is what we approved, and the zoning commission made it clear in their motion. They specified exactly how many lots they're talking about, so nobody can go above that. I just want to make sure that's clear, and the reality is if for some reason this doesn't go forward, the township can always rezone this on our own initiative back to RAG, because nobody here wants to see high density in this area. I know it's going to appear since you've got a full 45 acres there, but you're only not even taking half of that, you know, and putting in 65 homes. You know, it's almost, if someone just looks at that, they're going to say, boy, this looks like a high-density development, but not realizing there's all this open space around it that's been maintained. So I'm comfortable enough now. I wasn't before I came to this meeting, but now that you've talked about where the additional ingress and egress, if you're able to get that, I can see the zoning going forward. You know, it's a matter of which comes first, though, here, the chicken or the egg. Do we rezone first? Or do you go ahead and get that other property first?
Well, it doesn't serve any purpose for us to buy the other property if we don't know.
Right. Okay. All right, is there anyone else or any other comments? Yes, you want to come up to the mic then, please?
Well, for one thing, I don't understand how this...
If you could state your name, and I realize...
Arthur Abraham.
Okay, thank you.
On Oberlin Road, that is on less than quarter acres, got 55 homes, and he's trying to put homes, and you guys are cutting him down to nothing. This don't make any sense, and he's doing everything that's in the book for you guys. You just did 600 homes here on Oberlin Road. Where did they come from? And now you're giving him a hard time about 55 to 65 homes? And he's doing it in conservation and leaving land free for this township? It's time that you guys straighten up a little bit. It can't be rules for one guy and no rules for the other guy. And I understand the neighbors that they don't want homes right built in their backyards. I understand that. But it's not fair that you treat these guys over here with 600 homes and these over on Oberlin Road, another 55 homes on less than a quarter acre.
Yeah,
This is insane.
Yeah, Mr. Abraham.
I'm just saying this is insane. This is not right, Neil,
All right.
and you know that. It's who pays the bills here. This is getting crazy. This township, he doesn't want any development in this township for years. Our kids are moving every place else because they have no place to stay here. It's time that Amherst Township develops. It's a great place. I've lived here my whole life. And overall, the township is a great place to be, but, you know, and these people, they bought lots, and they got nice-sized lots, and they got good prices on them. But it's time that this township treats everybody equally, not not take it out on this guy or anybody else that wants to develop. Look what all you did, all the other zoning deals over here on Pile South Amherst. They're right next to each other. That ain't what he's doing. It's time that you guys give this thing the right look at. He's doing it right, and you guys are trying to stop him from developing a piece of land that isn't gonna hurt nobody. I'm very upset with the township right now. You've got double standards.
Yeah, Mr. Kohler, I hope you haven't felt that you've been treated unfairly. I do have to address this situation since I've heard about craziness, insanity, and not being fair. That is untrue.
Well, how do you guys...
Let me explain. Wait a minute. Mr. Abraham, I gave you a chance to speak, and I didn't interrupt you once.
I'll get back up there.
You get back up there, but you give me a chance to speak and address the issues you brought forward, which I disagree with. So now
Okay,
it's
that's
my
good, Neil.
turn to
That's
speak.
good. I don't have a problem with you disagreeing. I just think
right.
it's time.
Are you
that-
going to give me a chance to speak?
Yes,
You've
I'm gonna put
accused
this mic
us
back
as a
in
group
here,
of
Neil.
being crazy,
Neil.
right?
Listen, I'm putting the mic back in. Go ahead, talk.
All right. First off, the people we're most concerned with, as the conservation development zoning says, are going to be the people in the area that are immediately affected. So that's in that immediate area, and that's who we look out after most. And many of them have been at the zoning commission meetings. We've heard them. I've met with some of them individually. Now I want to address some of the other developments you've talked about that you think we've treated people differently. That is untrue. You mentioned the one on Pile South Amherst. You're talking the Copper Creek development.
Yes.
That particular one, that development came through. The first thing was the property owner never came to the township. They went to the city of Amherst first and requested annexation. And in that annexation, the reason they did that was to get the higher density that was being offered by the city of Amherst. You know, kind of like a quid pro quo. You come to us, we'll provide your utility, but you have to annex, and you'll get the density. We fought that annexation. We were fortunate to win that legal fight because we are aware of a mistake, a procedural mistake that was made by the property owners in the city of Amherst. We were fortunate enough that the property owner was willing to look at the township without annexation. The city of Amherst saw the benefit in extending the utilities there without the annexation and using the conservation development. The adjacent property owners were happy because now they didn't have the wooded area torn down that would have been taken down had this been annexed. That addresses the Copper Creek development. You accuse this board of treating people unfairly. Before you interrupt me, I'm going to address every single one of the developments you mentioned.
Go ahead.
That we unfairly address people.
Unfairly. I didn't think it was right.
Well, I think we'll run the tape later, but I think you did say
whatever.
that. Then you talked about the 600 homes here. First off, the township turned that down again based on what the residents were saying and what we saw being way above the density we saw that we expected. We then went, since that developer took us to court, there was a legal settlement agreed to between the township and the developer. Obviously, neither side got everything they wanted, but we ended up in that settlement agreement coming up with a compromise that we both could live with. So I can't say that we both walked away happy, but it was what was a reasonable, rational, legal settlement. Nobody was treated unfairly. The third development you talk about is Hampshire Farms. Again, we worked with the developer, who was the property owner, and all the adjoining property owners. And we made sure that we minimize the impact on the adjoining property owners, and that's a particular development that I just shared here with our residents that are affected by this development. where the lots are selling for about $56,000 and the homes are north of $350,000. So I don't appreciate when you call us crazies and then put, this is a collective board. We all speak our own mind in representing the people. We are not always in agreement. But usually between the three of us that have different views, between us, we can come up with compromises ourselves that we think are the best for our constituents. So I just want you to be aware, I don't see craziness up here. I don't see unreasonableness. I don't see unfairness. I see where we're doing what is expected of us, and that's holding these public hearings where everybody gets in the opportunity to speak, whether we agree with them or not. But
I agree.
you are the only one I've heard that made accusations about us that I take offense to that are unfounded and untrue.
Well, that's fine. I've been to these meetings years and years. I know about conservation zoning, and I don't think it gets applied right, and it depends who's doing it, and I'm not saying everybody has their opinion. He's never been for pro-development in this area from the day one. Any development that's ever happened here, he's been against more than once. I can't say anything for you and Denny, but I'm just telling you, this township should have been developed many, many years ago, and it could be a super township. And you guys have done the best you can with what you've got to work with, because I understand that part. But I really think when you got 55 homes over here that are on less than a quarter acre, and he's putting them on a half an acre, and more than a half an acre, and your zoning said he can do one an acre, he could put 140 homes there. And zoning conservation is supposed to let him move that density into one area. So those 140 homes, if he did his conservation right, could be built all in one smaller section, and he saves a lot of development costs, and also the property owners that are buying property is cheaper because he's putting more homes there. I just don't understand, well, some of this stuff that's going on. And I apologize. Your board has been very great, but I'm just thinking, I've seen this before, and this guy gets 600, this guy gets something, and this guy gets something else, and this guy's doing something I think that's even better for the whole township. That's my opinion, and I'm sorry that if I offended you, Neil. You guys all do a decent job. I let you walk the property. I have no problem with you. And no problem with Denny. I have a problem with him because he's anti-development for this township.
Okay.
Well, Archie, can I just say one thing? You gotta admit one thing. I've been consistent.
I love you, but I don't like you.
I've been consistent. Can you at least give me that concession?
I don't. You have your own opinion. I'm just telling you what mine is, and I've been to these meetings
No.
many, many times, and when it comes to development, you were always against it.
No, that's consistency.
I agree here with you too, so don't go there.
Okay, are there any other comments? Okay, do you have any last words there, David?
No, I mean, it's your decision one way or another.
All right, then, at this point in time, we're going to conclude the public hearing and return to the regular meeting. And for the people that live down there, you may want to stick by, Rich. You might want to stick around because we will make a decision on this case.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have 20 days. Typically, we do it the night of.
Right, thank you very much.
Okay, we're back to the regular meeting. The trustees do have a prepared resolution in front of them. This is a map amendment consideration for property owners 113 Properties LLC / Arthur J. and Nicholas M. Abraham, and applicant David M. Kohler of Cambridge Services to rezone approximately 44.79 acres, consisting of permanent parcel number 05-00-052 and -000-062 and 05-00-069-000-001 fronting the east side of Oberlin Road between 8795 and 8823 from the present classification of residential agricultural RAG to the proposed classification of low-density residential R1. Now, this is all prepared. I'm not going to read through all the whereases because they pretty much follow the same introduction I had done for the public hearing.
Wait a minute, let me find the
Pardon?
proposed resolution. You got it
You're looking for the
here.
motion?
I had it, now it's shuffled. There it is. I found it. Okay.
All right. So I'm going to skip all the whereases and go right to the meat of this. Now therefore be it resolved by the Township of Amherst, State of Ohio, and I'm going to make this motion. Section 1, in the interest of the public health and safety, the Zoning Commission recommendation to approve the map amendment requested by the property owner shall be adopted. Now, that map amendment includes a conservation development overlay, which is in their motion. Let me go back to their motion. So just so it's clear, even though this doesn't spell out the 65 homes, that is, the motion from the zoning commission was to amend the Amherst Township zoning map to rezone those same two parcels, 44.8 acres of vacant land, and where the location is, from RAG to R1. The parcels will be developed as 65 single-family detached lots with 25.5 acres of open space, included all wooded areas. This motion is being made in an open meeting after public comment and recommendation of Lorraine County Planning Commission were considered and for the purpose of promoting the public health, safety, and morals in accordance with Amherst Township. So that's what we're approving. There's nothing more than the 65 homes, and all that wooded area has to be conserved.
Okay, I'll second.
Now, there's still, and the second portion is, in the interest of public convenience, comfort, prosperity, and general welfare, the zoning commission recommendation to approve the map amendment requested by the property owner shall be adopted. So the rest is boilerplate, that this was all done in an open public meeting. So that's my motion.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion? Okay, roll call, Chris?
Lynch,
Yes?
Abraham,
Yes.
Urick.
No.
And so now, since you guys are the only three that showed up, and I'm not sure where you live in relation, yeah, it's probably easier to go up and point to if there's a pointer there.
I'm borrowing your pointer. We are here and here. We are the two lots next to the deep right of the...
Oh, wait a minute, you're not, where are you again? Because it's, I know it's
Here.
Phillips or Bailey, right south of them.
So we are, our home is here, and we own this other lot next to us. And then there's the open lot,
You're down by the southerly piece.
other side of the...
Oh, okay, I'm looking at the
Yeah,
wrong,
I'm
okay,
sorry.
I gotcha.
Oh.
Oh,
Yeah, we're behind the 94 acres.
yeah, that area is not rezoned at all.
Okay.
That stays the same, and that's the one I mentioned, even though Mr. Kohler, his intention is to sell that off, and it's Cirrus that owns the others. They had bought all that property from Burrs when it was auctioned off, and they do the farming. They had actually helped with that cleaning of the ditch that's in blue there, which is called Batten House Lateral 2, and but I, you know, and I'm sure they intend on farming for a long time, but
And
someday...
That is our hope. We moved from Avon, and when we moved to Avon 20-some years ago, it was a nice, quiet community.
Oh, yeah.
And they developed it, and it's a nice community, don't get me wrong, but it is not a quiet community. The traffic was horrendous. And so we made the decision to move our family out to where it was more quiet, which was Avon 20 years ago. So I
Yeah.
understand the need to develop, but there's to develop the right thing.
Yeah, well, this just, yeah, so this wasn't, that's not changing right now. That would be up to them if they came forward or someone else in the future. I know Mr. Cole, in that section, by the way, which you're probably aware, is all within Oberlin School District. The northern
Right.
section is all in Amherst School District. But I do expect someday somebody's going to come in and ask to develop that.
No, we know.
We'll have to
We're
consider
just
it
hoping
then.
it'll be further off of the.
Yeah, and that'll be the time to come in and talk with us and really voice, your concerns on what's there and try and direct it the way you want it. Many of the residents, even from that southern portion, came in, but we're more concerned with those right up there where this development is being proposed.
Right.
And the one thing that was clear to them, they did not want that wooded area taken down, even though, as one gentleman's aware, that has been logged, because it's actually a younger growth. If you look at more of the older oak trees that weren't taken down, that were on private residence, most of those are over 100 years old.
Right.
But when you get in a smaller wooded area, it's a much younger growth area. It's just taken over as nature does back there.
Right, well, we just hate the township has a very nice character to it, and we don't want to see the
I hear
feel
ya.
of the township be lost.
I don't either. I lived there, and that development they referred to with the 600 homes, I'm right in the middle of it.
Right, I drive by every day, and I'm like, oh, gosh.
Well, some of it, I'll tell you, some of the nice things on the settlement, if you notice the homes fronting Oberlin Road, those are the larger homes, and you see one went up and is complete, a second one's going up.
Right,
And then the ones that'll be in, then there's a big conserved area there.
okay.
Then all along, for the people along Oberlin Road and 113, those are all larger lots bordering them, because that's what they're used to. And there's a 50-foot buffer where they would have only been required to have 25. There's a full 50-foot buffer. The higher density is as you go to the north, getting close to the turnpike.
Right.
And there's not a whole lot of people that complain up by the turnpike, and it is
No,
very noisy by the
They're just
turnpike.
passing through, so.
Yeah, so it made more sense in the negotiation of what went on, and that turned out to be townhomes that will be rentals, but originally they were 4-story rental apartments, which got turned down.
Well, that's good.
So, the trustees can only do their best, but realize just like that, when you end up in court, if you constantly just drive a stake in the ground, you're probably going to lose.
That is very true. Well, thank you very
Okay.
much, we appreciate it.
Sure.
What's the resolution number on that? 10-8?
10-9. 10-8 was coming back from the public hearing to the regular meeting.
So this is 10-9?
No, that wasn't a motion. 10-8. That wasn't a motion, Chris.
I'll wait for Chris to give me the right number.
That's fine, then it's 10-8.
It's 10-8?
Now, Neil just said we're going back to
Yeah.
the regular meeting. It's like, okay.
Okay, well, this said that it was a motion, so. Motion for adjournment and return to regular trustee meeting.
You need one?
That's what it asks. So,
So it's 10-9.
10-8.
10-8. Okay.
You make a motion to go back to the
I
meeting?
didn't, but it does say that here, as she said. But I just said we'll move back into the regular meeting.
10-8-23.
Yes, sir.
As long as Chris's minutes reflect it the right way, we'll go by what she has. Okay, we already talked about NOPEC. I think the only other thing, David, I will ask is, has there been any other movement or question on the architect?
No,
question?
just that if we need help, Jim Yorks will help out. If
Okay.
we need help out. But, no, as far as, talk to him about a permanent or not, no, not yet.
Okay, well, if you
But we
can,
just got that covered, though.
if you can just start looking at something in permanency, otherwise I'm going to look to you and Denny, because remember, we will be having that update to the zoning resolution. The main focus, what's the impetus behind this, was the Board of Zoning Appeals asking for more time from the time they receive an application to the time they have the hearing. And so, since we were doing that, we're trying to pick up where there's errors or mistakes to get everything done. And if we had the opportunity, one of them would be, hey, do we even keep that in there, that necessity, or do we make it an option? Okay, so we just need to know how we present that with all those changes. And we're trying to avoid doing this piecemeal, which costs us too much money in public hearings and upgrade with the county. If you and Denny still want to keep it as the architect's required, we'll just leave that alone. But then we need an architect underemployed. Okay?
And I would just like to suggest that we just leave it an option that we don't mandate that it has to be, but that we have the option to have an architect, is what I would suggest as the editor of
Well,
the
thank you.
zoning
I agree with you,
resolution.
but
So I just wanted to throw in my 2
That's up to Denny and
cents.
David, so
Right.
it's up to them to let us know.
That you can still have one, but we don't put it in law that you must have one. So I will put it both ways when I present it to you guys to discuss. When
Well,
it
I
comes-
could quickly agree with Neil's position, okay?
Okay, that's all.
Okay. Okay, our next regularly scheduled meeting will be at 7 o'clock on Tuesday, November 14th. Kevin, do you have any need for a work session?
No, sir.
And get the mini grant done separately? Okay,
I'll get in touch with Don tomorrow.
all right. Any other audience concerns? Any need for an executive session? Okay, then can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Erie,
Yes.
Abraham,
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes.